I want to dive in together with you into inclusive tourism as a business transformer. So I work for University College at PXL. We are known for practical research, and specifically, my domain is leisure economy. So a little bit more to the work field side, but of course, our output is also shared with our students. Here you can see a picture of the team if everything goes well. We work together with our scientific partner, U Hasselt, and I understood that one of my colleagues from U Hasselt will present later on as well. So a nice integration here. I'm not going to elaborate further on Meet the Team. I think it's more interesting to dive into the content. I have a quick agenda, so I want to talk to you about the goal, the process, and the approach. Certainly about the outcome and the results and the roadmap we created. And then if there is some time left there or there is some space for Q&A, but I will try to stay within the time frame. So Anthony, please correct me if I do take more time than needed. 3 years ago, we conducted research together with several small accommodations in Flanders. I've put their logos here as a sort of appreciation for their efforts to collaborate with us because from the practical work field, it's not always easy to work together with researchers because it takes a lot of time and the outcome is not certain. So there is no certainty of an economic impact. However, we did try to maintain that in this project. I must say that there was a pandemic, maybe you have heard about it, that made my research a little bit more complicated. We also had the body from some intermediate organizations. I will show them here, but I think it's less relevant, but it's obligatory to mention them for their support. So let's dive into the research itself. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm struggling a little bit with my slides here, apologies. We wanted to integrate universal design principles, and universal design is a way of manufacturing, like for instance, furniture and services and so on, in a way that it is accessible for everyone, and everyone in a very broad perspective. So people with specific needs, if we take them into account, then we all benefit from these advantages. So if we can put this universal design into practice, then it's a benefit for everyone. So what did we do, or what were the objectives? We wanted to give our tourism partners some guidance and implementation of UD principles into via business transformation. In order to do so, we first started with a universal design scan to see at what level they were already with their mindset and with their recommendation into the principles of universal design. And then via dialogue, interaction, and cooperation between different actors, we came to this business transformation exercise, which afterwards we measured again to see what the outcome was. In the ideal situation, I would also have measured the economic impact, but as you know, that was the tricky part in this one. But we do have some nice improvements on the business transformation exercise. And we validated that in a roadmap and a website, which I can transfer afterwards if interested. So maybe a short dive into the definition of inclusive tourism as we have approached it. It's the pursuit to create a usable and understandable tourism offer or tourist offer for all guests with or without additional needs. We know that this is utopia because it's very hard to do good for everyone at all stages. So we started with incremental steps. We think that if everyone does some efforts, then in the end, all together, we have a wide offer where everyone can find his or her accommodation as wished. So that everyone can experience an entire travel experience at the same equal level. That's very important, and that's also very linked to the definition of universal design. And we want to do this in a positive, elegant, and comfortable way. I have a picture to show you what I mean with this whole definition. In this case, you don't feel stigmatized because you have a specific need. Everyone can use this, from a toddler to maybe someone even in a wheelchair who can pass under this lavatory. and make use of the sanitary space provided here. So a very low level entry to make people aware of universal design and the opportunities that it has for everyone without being a stigma. Voilà. With our research, we had three central building blocks we focused on. First of all, we had the mindset management and infrastructure. It all starts with mindset. If you have the right mindset, the management will follow, and your infrastructure is an outcome of your management and the mindset. So that was our first building block. Then we looked at user needs, and we defined that in Flanders you have 26 specific needs. But talking about these needs, like for instance, allergies, for instance, that does not give any idea, that's not related to a person. It's very hard to work with those things. So we transformed that into 12 target groups. And I'm going to show you in a second what the persona are, because it's much easier to talk to an accommodation with a persona than with a specific need that does not make any sense for them. And then we use these two building blocks and we mapped them into an inclusive customer journey. So the moment you want to start planning your holiday, from the moment you're back home and all the intermediate steps, we checked what can we do to be more, to have a more universal approach, a more inclusive approach. So this is the customer journey of a traveler, and apologies, my nose is running a little bit. And we started with the planning and the booking stage, because even in that stage, you can already think about people with specific needs and make it more easier for them to plan and book their holiday. And I will give you some practical examples later on. So you see what we did for these accommodations to be more inclusive. The next step is the travel and arrival, and then you see the overnight stay. And the last stage is the return and after experience. So this is the full customer journey. And these are my 12 persona. It's not all visible specific needs, like for instance, people in a wheelchair. This is the thing that comes to mind first if you think about people with a specific need. But like for instance, the person with a camera, at a certain moment when he's using his or her camera and he's walking around, he also has a visual impairment. So these people can also be taken into account, or in these days, people walking around with their smartphones, we maybe do not think about it, but they can have a visual limitation at that time as well. So we have our 12 persona, which you can see here. But if you would look at the needs, then you see that we cover a lot more of these people. Like for instance, a person who has difficulties hearing, well, maybe a foreigner who does not speak the language has the same or has comparable challenges than to someone who's not hearing very well. So by addressing these 12 persona, we do cover a broad range of people. And, oh, I'm sorry. In the end, if we would then, with all our recommendations and everyone focuses on one or two specific needs or persona, you could see that we have an offer for the whole group of tourists without any exception. We had two processes in this research. We had on one side the support for suppliers, and on the other side, we had our accommodations or our lodging types where we helped them throughout this whole process in order to work more inclusive. So we did a screening, we did an analysis about the opportunities based on the screening, and we gave it back to them saying, okay, if you, this is the analysis, this is your blueprint of how you are conducting business right now. And for these type of persona, you're doing already perhaps very well, and other ones maybe you're not aware of, but you do not have an offer that's appropriate for them. So then we gave it back to the accommodations and we asked them, what do you want to work on? Do you want to work on your strengths and develop a very specific niche product for people with specific needs where you already have an advantage? Or do you want to come to another situation where you address a new target group by, well, adapting and making some changes for the people you are not having a good offer for at this moment. And we gave them an opportunity matrix where they could see what the impact would be in time and based on budget. And then they made a choice because it's their business, of course. They made a choice, and we helped them with a plan of approach. And it was conducted during the rest of the year. And then afterwards, we made a new scan to see how have you evolved with your business in this inclusive process. So this is the process and approach for accommodations, like I said, and the 3 building blocks were always our touch stones to see if we are working on, if we're still working on our vision. And to give you an idea of this analysis that we did, this scanning, they got a score. They got a score per touch point. Touch points are these 4 steps in our customer journey, and then the other side they got a score for the 12 target groups. I'm sorry, but the slides are partly in Dutch because I did not have the time to translate everything. But the idea is clear. You can see that we have our 12 persona here, and you can see the scores that they have. So like, for instance, in this case, you could see that for the first touch point, which was the planning and the booking, this accommodation did already quite well overall for people with specific needs. But if you would dive into the details about the persona, then you could see that, okay, for children, people who are asthmatic and people with specific food preferences, well, your offer is absolutely not adapted. However, for people who have hearing disabilities or visual impairments, you can see that they did already quite well. So this gave them a blueprint of how am I doing business right now, specifically for people right, based on the principles of universal design. And as I said, based on this UD scan, we created an opportunity matrix to see if you would work on, like, for instance, tourists, and you want to make your offer more adaptable in terms of remote speakers, what you can do. Like, I hope you don't have problems with my dog who's barking in the background. I think it's very annoying. I don't know.
Don't worry at all. I think the dog is saying this is very interesting and we like it a lot. But yes,
if it becomes too annoying, I will put him away. So give me a second if it really is becoming too disturbing.
Don't worry. We are not sure that the dog has registered for the
Okay.
event.
No, I did not. Apologies for that. I will do that later on then.
Okay, do carry on. Thank you very much.
Okay, so you can see here that the bigger the circle is, the more impact it would have on the business transformation. The smaller the bubble is, or the ball is, the less the impact would be. And you could see that we mapped it onto arches, which is investment and the period of time you need. The short period of time was an implementation within 6 months. Maybe that's interesting. And a low investment would be an investment lower than 500 euros. How did we came up with these numbers? Well, we did an interview with the accommodations to define what is a short term, long term for them, and what is high investment, low investment for them. So these numbers are very specific for the touristic sector. Maybe you would think 500 euros, okay, that's not that much of an it's not even a middle investment for them. As from 500 euros, it starts to be a more heavily investment. So based on this, they could make a choice, and they, for instance, said, okay, I want to work on the foreign tourists because if I address them, I also have adapted accommodation for people who have hearing issues or maybe people who are deaf. Because with foreign tourists, for instance, you work more with symbols, which also helps for people who don't hear very well. We created then a rollout growth plan, as you can see here, with very specific guidelines. For instance, in this case for touchpoint 2, which was the travel and arrival stage, you can give specific instructions for people with specific needs, like, for instance, people who don't speak the language, how how to get to your accommodation by using symbols and so on, for instance. And this diminishes the traveling stress for them because we all want to go on holiday to be relaxed. But for people with specific needs, it's often an extra stress factor because they have a lot of things and a lot of requirements that they have to check in advance. So in order to diminish the stress level, you can give good information already in the booking stage, and this helps them to overcome these issues. And then, for instance, something very, very practical, and a lot of accommodations do not think about this, but having the official parking symbol at the parking already helps a lot, so that these people immediately know as a foreigner, oh, I can park there because it's a universal sign. And you can see it's a very, very low level, very entry level for accommodations to work with this, but it really helped them to see, okay, this is a low investment in a short period of time. I can, well, quite easily adapt it. And then I already, well, address a little bit more to this specific target group with a specific need. I have here some examples, like for instance, in the booking stage, maybe you wonder what can you do for people with specific needs in order to have an easier reservation process. Well, it can be very, very simple things like thinking about the typography that you're using. If you use a straight lines typography, it's much easier for people, for instance, who have HDID. I don't know if you say this, if it's the same abbreviation. I hope so. But also for people who have visual impairments, even people with glasses, they prefer to have, apparently, because this is not my research, I based myself on earlier research for this, they prefer to have typography that is straightly forward because it's easier to read. Other things like, for instance, try to avoid italic text, too much text in bold, capital letters, and so on. These are very practical tips, not very hard to integrate either, and it already makes a huge difference for people with specific needs. Voila. So these are the different steps. I don't know why this slide is still in here. My apologies. This should have been deleted. And that brings us to the project research results and the impact. So we did a quantitative impact measurement. So what was the impact of maximizing inclusive tourism? That was our question. Which UD business opportunities were chosen the most within the study, because it's also interesting to see what accommodations chose, so that we maybe can address in the next step towards the other one, so that in the end everyone has a specific offer. And then comparison of the baseline and the follow-up measurements for the participating accommodations. Let's dive into it. The impact of maximizing inclusive tourism was mostly for the overnight stay, and well, it's quite logic that it's the category with the highest investment and mostly longer term. But there were also a lot of opportunities on investments lower than 500 euros and implementation in short term, so within the 6 months. So this is nice to see that for most accommodations that participated, they already could do a lot for the stage they wanted to have some impact on, and in the two categories. Okay. Overview of the target groups. Well, this is a little bit more diverse, and I'm quite happy with this slide because it means that our accommodations that participated, and for around 17 accommodations, they all chose different types of target groups. So in the end, it's good for us to see that overall we created an offer, a broader offer for all people, for all people with specific needs. Even though some accommodations decided specifically to work on one target group, in the end, if you take everything together, you can see that we contributed to a more diverse offer for everyone. And that was our goal at the beginning, so that's very nice. Okay, the categories that were chosen the most were elder person and children. And you think maybe why children? Well, children are smaller people, and they have sometimes difficulties reading, so symbols helps them a lot. So if you address your accommodation towards children, and then you address a whole wide range of people with other specific needs as well, because these needs are similar to those of other people. Voilà. The categories that were chosen the less were people with specific food preferences and people with allergies. And I did not had the opportunity to define why they were less chosen, but my personal opinion is that specific food preferences, there are several types of food preferences, and it's maybe hard for a chef to take into account these very specific food allergies and food preferences within a whole global kitchen. So, but that's my personal opinion, of course. Okay, I'm checking the time. Okay, still have 3 minutes left, so I'm going to skip this. I will send the presentation, or you can share the presentation afterwards, Anthony and Isabel, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
Because this would lead us too far. Voila. Maybe for our recommendations, and this can be interesting, we really want to make them aware of universal design. So we did a lot of exercising where we created interactions, dialogue, and collaborations. We had, for instance, webinars. We made visits in accommodations. As you can see here, this is a bathroom which is fully adapted. So we really tried to make it tangible what inclusive tourism and universal design is, and as you can see here. And we even did these funny exercises with our students from architecture, for instance, or students from tourism, and they did. We gave them a disability, and they were they went to visit the accommodations to experience what it was, and so also the owner of the accommodation could see what the impact was without hurting his personnel and without hurting his clients. We simulated these exercises to really make it very, very concrete, as you can see here. And this made in the end it resulted in some very nice testimonials, as you can see here, from Maarten, who has a boat in Ghent, and he challenged me at the beginning of the project. He said, I'm going to participate because I'm quite sure that my accommodation is absolutely not, it's not possible to work with people with specific needs. And I like a challenge. At the end, he became one of our biggest ambassadors, and he found out that his boat is actually perfect for people with hearing disabilities. This is a thing he did not thought about himself, but during the project he found it out, and yeah, it's very nice to have this testimonial here, but you can read it afterwards. This is a testimonial of one of our suppliers who worked together. He is a website developer, and also he had new insights about the opportunities to work more inclusive, in fact, and he wrote this testimonial about it as well. Very nice one. And all this information, we combined it in a very low level practical guide, sort of workbook where you can find these different stages and tips and tricks in each stage, so that from now on, accommodation who want to work more inclusive, they can take this as a starting point to transform to a more inclusive approach. Voila, so this is what is in the book, and that brings me to the end, and then I think I'm perfectly on time. If you want more information about this project, you can do so by addressing this website. And if you want to go through the UD scan, well, you have to be aware that it's for recommendations, of course. Then you can contact me, and I will show you the ins and outs of this scan and the outcome in a more detailed manner. Thank you very much.